Hello, everyone. Today is July 31st. 31st. This is the etcd community meeting. I will just silence my phone. I think we can start. Let me share the meeting notes so everyone can see. Yeah, I was looking at how to kick the bots. So we have a couple of things on our agenda, but since the last time, at least I was able to attend the meeting, I was able to write down more some section that was requested. I don't know still what's the best way to put where to put it, but I put it on the top of the notes that I don't know if you can see my screen. I put it on the top of the notes the terms that we are using under the meeting. So some people that come on the first time, they can at least get some high-level understanding of what we are talking about. I don't think it's still complete, so feel free to suggest any improvements. But high level, this is like dump of most of the things that are in my mind when I'm thinking about like correctness of etcds, and I think it should be mostly complete and give you like idea if you want to deep dive in some specific area where to look. If you have any chance, please read it through. Maybe it can help you, hopefully. I don't see any questions on the agenda, but please feel free to bring them in still if you want to have any doubts or questions about how the robustness and etcd correctness works. I'm happy to answer them. I think it's the result of detail that are hard to at this level that are hard to explain without knowing the full meeting and talking directly to find a common ground. Yeah, I see one hand up.
Sorry, I have one quick question. There is a timeout of, I think, 16 hours for a robustness test that we were checking last session with Xuan, and I was thinking how we can decrease that timeout. I mean, that's so much.
You're asking about the timeout, 5-minute timeout, this timeout?
No. That's another one. There was I can find it. I think that's not here. I can find it and show it to you later. There is a task with a big amount of time. I think it was 16 hour or 4 hour. I don't exactly know the exact number, but
Okay.
there was, yes. And I was wondering how we can decrease that number to, like, I don't know, 1 hour, 2 hour, something like that to make sense. I mean, 16 hours is too much.
16 hours. I have no idea of any task that takes 16 hours. I think that, or on the GitHub side, the timeout for robustness, I know if you're asking about workload, the timeout for robustness test should be somewhere here, timeout minutes. So this is for the default task, and this is like high level. If whatever is happening here, installing, I know lazyfs, installing like Metering, installing Golang, running the test, and uploading the artifacts, everything needs to fit in those 210 minutes. On the GitHub No, pro side. I think we need to go into Kubernetes testing. No, test infra. Config jobs. I'm now going from my Kubernetes SIG. No, etcd period. I thought that we split it out, the robustness. Okay, there is a robustness job. I thought it was a separate job. And here is the second timeout, which is 210 minutes, the same timeout. For doing mostly the same thing, but it's configured differently. So I don't know what 16 hours timeout you mean.
I may be wrong. There is so much time after that. I mean, that's 2 weeks ago. I will check them out again and make sure that I was right. I don't know. I can't remember it right now. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, please feel free if you find the like if you find out or want to, your question or you need to follow up from previous meeting on or bring or have a question that for the next meeting, please feel free to copy the meeting agenda and add your question or like put it in the next meeting agenda because that's the like simplest way to make sure that we don't lose context is make notes. At least this is how I try to do that is not never try to or don't depend on my memory, depend on like on notes.
Of course, of course. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. What we have. If there are no questions, let's go into recent issues. So I try to start I would like to start during the meetings doing some level of triaging of issues that we have opened, and so that people are aware what is happening in the with regards to robustness and maybe whether they can help or there are any tasks that are within their I know that are simple enough to do. So I added a couple of things that are on my mind. They're I think pretty old ones outside of one issue, but because they come from fact that I didn't have time. Like I was on holiday, so I didn't have time. So that's the last thing that I remember that happened. But feel free. We have a dedicated to look into the link, and there is full label, full label that lists all the issues related to it. No, not everyone is easy to do, but on every case, I would be pretty willing to help guide someone to help. And there are like both robustness tests and help wanted issues, which I usually try to keep simple enough for someone else to look into. Yeah, so what is the first? One issue I remembered that because I remembered from the last meeting I attended is because we have more flags that we should have, and I would like to finally start tackling it. And last time I was here, we identified at least a problem with the sleep fail point. So if you look at the test grid, the higher the test is, the more recent and frequent the failure is. So you can see that sleep is always somewhere up there high. Like sleeps are like the fail point. So the last part of the test name is the fail point, and it's always something related to sleeping. So I think there is an open issue somewhere here that the sleep is flaking, and I think there was I don't have any better. I think we discussed the idea that we could time it out or increase the timeout, or that was proposed by Madev, or fix the underlying issue, because it looks like there is a possibly bug in the test. In sorry, not in the test, in the file point injection library, Go file. I think that's why it was. I think we CC'd Henry because he was working on that.
Yeah,
Uh,
I was trying to run some integration tests locally to resolve this. I currently don't have a deadlock reproduced somehow locally. So, but yeah, I can take charge in increasing the timeout value for now, and then if I have
yeah.
any new findings, I will just update there. I'm
Mhm.
currently just, trying to see if I can somehow let the code deadlock by doing enabling, disabling, and then
If,
yeah.
if yeah, would be great if you have any. If you started any investigation into that, would be great if you could um, provide add your findings. But yeah, I agree. If it's too hard to reproduce, it's a very like important information. Maybe we are like starved for resources and like just the timeout is somewhere else. The timeout in the thing the or the deadlock in the library is just an assumption, and it will be pretty hard to reproduce this. So maybe just adding more timeout and seeing if things uh, look better could work. Would it be okay for me to assign you?
Yes, let me try to handle the whole this ticket because it's also tied to go fail, which I'm investigating, and I did the change in the sense. So, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. It should be pretty small. Like if you know where the timeouts are, it should be pretty small change, but very impactful. And CI bot doesn't like me, so let me force. So yeah, like we need to fix this. Henry, how much could you need to ping someone to get you approved for a member? I think you've done enough.
I am actually a member, no?
I don't know. Assign following members. Not that it's with read permission.
Okay, never mind. I'll assign myself. Don't worry.
Uh, okay, please do. But also, please, like, if it doesn't work, please ping people because we we were some time ago we were migrating from manually edited membership to automated one, and it would be very unfortunate, but possible that somewhere in this migration you get lost, and I would definitely want to resolve that.
Okay.
And it worked for you. You can assign yourself. Okay. Uh, maybe I don't have permission. I don't know. Something strange is happening. Okay.
I think there is something wrong with the bot.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Second thing. Oh, like just a follow up. I think by I don't know if we have um Fika with us, but yeah, if that PR I think it would be very nice because it would give us confidence to merge this, which is just increasing the or reducing the concurrency. I would because we have too many failures recently. I mean, we there was unfortunate or number of failures. I assume is around the same. We just didn't invest much time into deflaking. And the third thing I want to discuss is an issue. I don't know if you're following the latest etcd correctness issue. I think I discussed it on the one of the previous meetings. But Fue is working on a very important thing, which is testing and fixing the watch correctness issue where when there is a compaction on a delete event, which is horrible thing but very rare. or at least unexpected, but still it can happen. So there is a large thread and discussion. It was found, or the issue was found by the robustness test with the addition of compaction, but it means now we like need to we silenced this exact error just to avoid like full robustness test being read. But the issue is pretty important, and we need as much testing confidence as we can that the change that Fue is working on is not making a regression in other parts of the system. And one of regressions that we are worried about is in hash key method. And hash key method is a very important one because this method is used by etcd to for each member to, or I think it's not used by each member, or for a cluster, for a leader in a cluster to continuously validate if other members, or not continuously, but periodically validate that other members have are not corrupted. So it periodically asks all the member in the cluster, hey, what's your hash on this revision, and checks if it's equal. And if it's not, it raises an alarm that, oh, we found a corrupted member. So this is mechanism that is very fragile if we make any mistake in the hash key method, because if the hash changes, then cluster, the new version of etcd will start reporting corruptions between members. And this is pretty like a little bit even scarier that as when the original hash method was defined some long time ago, we still cannot change the method of the hash because etcd supports upgrades with zero downtime. And during the upgrade with zero downtime, versions of members could be quite different. And we still need to ensure that the leader is able to validate other members and not report the cluster being corrupted. So this method, as far as defined how the hash key is calculated, we cannot change it. And with the very delicate changes in in compaction logic on which revisions and keys are stored during in the bbold during compaction, this can easily break. So we would like to have some periodic, or we would like to not only depend on testing that Fue gracefully gave us, which is solid scenario testing, which is, oh, let's have this scenario that exact matches the case that we are worried about and check hash key that is consistent on all members, but also to test it in, to expand from one exact scenario, defined scenario, to exploration of the space, which is a pretty good, which robustness tests are pretty good at. So they can generate random requests and with random interleaving using all the request types that are interested. And what we are missing is periodic or exact validation of hash key during the test. So I think I originally proposed it, and then Benjamin expanded on it a little bit. That would be nice to have it in maybe 3 ways or 3 cases. They could be implemented independently, but at the end, maybe we should have all of them. So checking at the end of the test is one idea. It's it's a good way to, not the best thing, but it's a good way to close, to ensure that at the end of the test we didn't or if we do a periodic checking or if we implement any other method, it's having a final check at the end is a good way to confirm that even not maybe some other hash key checking was done earlier, that at the end we know that we are good. And this is what was the previous framework was doing. It would be nice to restore this functionality. A second would be doing hashkey on exact compactions. So when there is compaction, to tackle this exact error, when there is a compaction, always check the hashkey, and also doing hashkey verification random revisions. This task could be like I mentioned, all of those three could be tackled separately. It's not a hard thing. If you know anything about etcd and you ever wrote an end-to-end test in etcd or contributed to etcd and wrote an end-to-end, this should be pretty easy. Yeah. So this is what is high level happening in robustness is. We are trying to reduce the flakiness, and we are trying to provide more confidence in features and fixes that we are building, so that etcd as a project can accelerate development because we feel safer to add things and change things. If there are no questions about this, I think I can go to the next point. I hear no questions, so let me jump to the robustness test dashboard. I haven't prepared much, so sorry, Suen, if I for not having time to prepare, but I will just do my way and just jump into latest failures. So interesting. So we have a pretty bad run here. It's one of the. It's a bad run because it failed on this level. It might be okay. So yeah, if we look at it, we have the tests. Oh, the fall test timed out, which is why it's much more redder than other tests, which is not great. It means that we are timing out, implying that so many tests failed, or there was so much added latency in each test, and usually added latency comes from slow linearization, which comes from a problem with the framework of being a problem with the framework that we timed out the fall test. Yeah, and we can see that tests are taking 5 minutes, which is usually the timeout of linearization. One not great thing is that because I recently added that a test, we added a fail point name to the test name. This broke logging a little bit because this test failed, but its logs for this test are not here. Here is just a test failure. Logs for this test are located here. Why? Because we create the cluster before we decide the fail point. So when we do that, when we create the cluster, we need to pass the logger, and all the cluster logs will be written to this logger. So, and the logger is attributed to the higher level of test, or comes from context of this test instead of coming from this test. So we report logger one level up instead of on the exact test that it failed. We report the cluster logs on one level up. It's not great. If there is anyone interested in tackling this problem, I would be very supportive if someone looked into that. So maybe I can note that the test logs are reported to higher to target to parent test target yeah. If there's like if there's no one interested in directly looking into that, I will be at the end of the meeting or after the meeting, I will be taking all the improvements that we list here and creating an issue from that. But if someone has any idea, can look into that now and have any ideas, I would be happy to discuss them. But going into the test itself, having a test fail on exactly 5 minutes is usually a clear indicator of the problem, because we have one place that has 5-minute timeout, and so it makes it pretty unique code location. Yeah. So, and the location is here, which is a linearization timeout. And this has been discussed previously on one of the meetings, that with addition of compaction, we made robustness test ability to linearize, made it harder for robustness test to linearize history. The reason is that, or the high level problem that we need to solve when linearizing history is trying to find the order of the requests. And the order of the request is pretty trivial if the requests are have an increasing revision. So when we know revision, we can know that, we cannot jump from revision 2 to revision 4. There needs to be a revision 3 between them. So we know that we can easily know that there is a middle request. But when there is an error, when there is a failed write that increases the revision, or when there is any failed write. So for example, etcd is unavailable for a moment, is down, or we crashed it, or there is a timeout because the request takes long, whatever it is, we don't get a revision, we don't get a response back, which means we don't know the revision. And here comes the etcd history patching, which is a hack and workaround for this problem, where I implemented a patching mechanism that tries to use other signals to guess or infer the revision. And the way I do it currently, which is maybe not perfect, could be changed, but maybe it's a place for improvement, is that a part of making normal requests, I also have watch requests, and watch requests should include history of changes to the cluster. And if there is a matching request, if I have an write request that failed, and there is a matching watch event that succeeded, I can, and they match by key and a value, and the key and the value that were sent are unique in the whole history of the test. I can easily guess that, if this request failed, but I have watch event that it matches it and there is no other request that match, I can say that this request failed but was persisted in etcd, and the revision that it persisted is the same as the watch. That's the watch event. And this made robustness test much more scalable. But unfortunately, with changes, it gets more, or with adding more features, more API, it gets more complicated and more complicated. So the problem is that when we added compaction caused a problem that we are no longer able to know for sure and that we get all the watch events, because etcd only guarantees that you are able to open a watch and watch events that were not compacted, because compaction means that client informs etcd, hey etcd, I thank you for holding the history of all the changes and storing everything on the disk, but we no longer need as much history. Please cut their history up to this point, to some point, because we are no longer interested in all the changes before that. And in some interleaving of requests, this can cause some events to not ever be received. So in that cases, we are no longer able to find all the revisions for all the requests, meaning that if there is a lot of requests that failed, we no longer can assign a revision for them, which means going like 10 steps back. Sorry for that. We cannot linear or linearization is harder because it's harder to find an order without knowing without revisions, because it's much more costly, because you need to you cannot just look at the requests that have increased revision. You need to look at all the requests that happened at the time. I think seeing this issue enough times, I'm even convinced myself that I think I should merge this change here, because I don't know when and how we would be able to fix it otherwise. So this is one of the way to fix this, is reduce the concurrency or number of client count, which means number of concurrent requests. Because as I mentioned, the goal of linearization is to find the order of requests. And if there are like only 5 concurrent, if there are 5 clients, when all of the clients send a request and this request failed, you need to consider power of 5 of combinations of those requests. Somewhat. But if there are like 10 or 12, then you need to, or every additional client gives you exponential growth, because like power, like even decreasing from 12 to 10 is reducing by like over 100 times size of the search space. So it's a huge amount. So every client counts here. So I will just, I don't think we'll, like, looking at the progress we tried, I think we should just, or looking that in that time I was not able to provide any better solution, I think we can merge it. And thank you, Faeka, for like sending this PR. I think, sorry for taking so long to make a decision. Yeah. And hopefully for the next meeting we'll have 100 times less timeouts. Yeah. Also, in the meantime, I have worked on the issue with that Fue that I discussed. That Fue is working on. He works on making a fix, but I worked on the other side. Maybe I can bring it out, which is disabling this edge case in robustness test. Too many PRs. Yes. The main source of flakiness at some point was the issue that we found in etcd, and it looked like it will take us a long time to fix it. So instead, I proposed to add a check for this explicit issue. So I just directly written edge case that if there is exactly this some combination of compaction, deletion, creation, and missing watch event, I will mark that we detected a missing event for this issue, and we can ignore a failure. So we can like skip this failure and then not report it, that we broke watch guarantee, and added a to-do that we will remove. So this showed us that even with this mitigation, we are still not able to linearize. So most of the things here should be linearization timeouts. Yeah, so sorry for a long tangent. Is everything I'm describing about this linearization clear? Would I bring more context just to make sure we are on the same page?
Thank you.
Okay. We have another 5 minutes, 6 seconds, so I can assume this is the same thing. And the last thing, there is a test that failed after 0 seconds, which means it might be more interesting. Yeah, I don't. It's hard to know. Maybe looks. Let's look at other failure. I think the last, maybe there is a problem with the last run per test. So, okay, this is the problem with the logging attribution. Here we have a test and it failed after 8 seconds, which makes it interesting. So let me maybe note what kind of issues. We have 2 timeouts on linearization. It motivated and it motivates merge of. Yeah. And when we merge this, we should monitor and note. We should expect to notice reduce number of timeouts. If we don't see it, it means that the like we still need to go lower, but we should expect it to see. So if it doesn't happen, it should be surprising, and we should investigate also that. Okay, we have different kind of test failure. Oh, but it's also linearization timeout on 5 minutes. I don't know if I clicked it right. So, okay, so this is problem with log attribution. It says that tests took 5 minutes, but the failure says there was a 5-minute linearization. I'm starting to really hate the fact that I broke the logs. Because if it's hard for me to know what to attribute failures, it means it's even more harder for others that don't have full context. Okay. And we have this case, and it was reported as failure, but looks like a succeed, which is sometimes notice that it happens on the pro log, but I don't know why. Or maybe there is some small log that says that it marked the test as failed, but I'm not sure why in this case.
I'm sorry, is that a parent Log, I saw that the last session too. There was a lot of them.
Uh, I I don't know. Currently, I'm just confused which where I should expect the failure to be. Mm, yeah, it says that it failed, but the test doesn't show any failure. It just says, "Oh, finished traffic, finish simulating, validation success, validating watch," which means it's successful, serializable. So at least the report from etcd was marked correct, but it's hard to. I mean, it's hard to find log that would mark the test as failure. This is what I don't like in in Golang testing, and maybe etcd tests that or in robustness that we have combined stream that is not clearly tagged that which log comes from etcd and which log comes from testing framework.
I will take a look at this one. I saw that too many times. This happens many times. I'll take a look to see if I can find the issue with this logs.
Okay, awesome. Can you add yourself to the on the document?
Yes, I'll update that.
Make sure, I mean, to make sure I can remember, we can still remember in 2 weeks, and maybe we can follow up on or discuss it if needed. Okay, hard to, based on the files, it's hard to. So there are so many failures that it's hard. Maybe we can look at this failure, which only looks like only one failed test, or this round. Yes, it's so with one failed test, we should be able to see. I mean, there is still, or we had still timeout, which is bad. But we can see that there is one main test that failed, one test robustness exploratory level that test failed, and subtest of it. So, but it's one test failing, just reporting on many levels, which is not great. So for some reason on this level, it reports doesn't report any information. So I think this test didn't really test, it's just everything timed out. And I'm not really surprised that everything timed out if every test is reported that it took over a minute. That's not good. Yeah, okay. That's weird. Like the times of that, like average time of one test should be like this, around 10 seconds. The timeout is 1 minute, but still, like we should see like 10 seconds, maybe 21 seconds. Like try to minimize, like we do a lot of runs, but I try to minimize number of how much we spend on one scenario.
I'm sorry. I asked a question at the beginning of the session. I was wrong about 16 hours. Oh, I meant 3 hours and 30 seconds, like this test that you're showing. I was wondering why this test took this much time and how we can decrease this to, I don't know, 1 hour. Maybe the number here is wrong. Like you showed earlier, there's 5 seconds, 3 seconds, 20 seconds. Or maybe the reporting of the pro is wrong. I will take a look at this, but overall, the timeout is too much. 3 hours is too much. I don't know.
Sure. So, like I mentioned before, that 3 hours comes from 210 minutes timeout, which is 3.5 hours. This time says that it failed after 3 hours 20 minutes, which is not the pro job timeout, but it's a test level timeout, which is a little bit shorter. Which this timeout is the Golang timeout, which is 320, which is just like 10 minutes shorter to make sure that we don't like pro limits the external timeout and test internal timeout to make sure that if we have timeout on test, it's still preserved, logs are still preserved, collected and uploaded by the pro. So that's so we have like hierarchy in the test timeout. And it's a good question why this takes so long. I mean, to get the info is the question would be how many what takes so long to run the test, or what is the time that we expect the test to run, and this requires us to say how many tests we really run in one scenario. And this is not also a, I think, easy question. Previously it was easier when there was like one thing, but now there is thing. So I think we run 150 scenarios on. Each scenario runs in 150 cases, and the high-level scenarios. How I need to think how I can filter it out. I could technically do in options, exclude by filter, and exclude equal sign. Oh, but there are fail points that don't have an equal sign. Okay, but still it's easier. Yeah, maybe we should have something to annotations or a way to code it. If you look at this, there should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, this doesn't. No. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 scenarios. Like you could calculate it from test, but you could say we have 10 scenarios. So we have 200 minutes divided by 10 scenarios, and each of them we run 150 times, which means we have average of 8 seconds per run. So there is one nice feature of Pro, that's why it's awesome, that can give you how long each test run takes out on average. So we could look at, has the time increased? So some time ago we had runs that took around 195 minutes, but we started hitting 200 minutes. So which means we've been at least for 2 weeks on the boundary. Unfortunately, we don't have more data, and it would be better to see this trend earlier. But the main cause of this trend is, like, we can see that there was an increase in trend since some time, or like at least 2 weeks. We can look at the higher level, which should show us What is this number? It's a good question. It's a highest level of test, but it's much. I would expect here to have one, like those at 8 seconds, and not, or, oh, this is time for 10 scenarios. So 10. So this should be, I think. So we have, let's say, 1.4 minutes, which is 84 seconds per one group of tests, which if we divide by 10 gives us 8.4. So we basically, in some time, we increased by 5%. Duration of that, no, I don't know, 5%. Can I do math? Maybe 0.84 is like 5% of 8. So we are 5% above, on average, we're 5% above the, at least from the tests. We are above the, on that test, we were above the 10. So it will be really hard for us now to try to guess what thing increased in time, because we have nice graphs, but those graphs are after there was some increase. So the increase was long time ago and we started timing out, and it's not no longer observable like that. We have only a window of 2 weeks to see, and you can see we almost constantly timed out due to, or very close to timeout. Or maybe not. Here timeout, and here also I expect timeout. So yeah, we just didn't look into the issue and we allowed it to fester. It's just a way of life that we have. So I think the simplest solution for this would be reduce number of runs. So how to do that? I mentioned that test infra of Kubernetes, and jumping in, jump. This is test infra. Config jobs, etcd, periodics. We here run 150 times the exploratory. So let's find the maximum from, I don't know, try to guess the maximum, 1.42. Where else? Or this is like maximum, let's say. So 1.43, which means we spent 8.6 seconds on a test. So if we have 200 minutes, sorry, I will do the math separately, and divided by 10, and then divided by 8.6, looks like we are not able to even do 140 repeats. So I would suggest, take 20%, also 20% safety guard. So we should be doing, let's say, around 120 runs to be safe at the current performance or average runs. So we are doing a trade-off that we allowed the test to take or some delay or slowness to faster, and now we don't have any data to reproduce and find what was the issue. So the only way to address and allow for further development or to find this issue, we need to reduce our repeatable number of repeats. So I think that the second thing to avoid the timeout would be to reduce the number of repeats to 120. Yes, I see the hand. Sorry, I didn't notice it earlier. Only working on one.
Thank you. What about we decrease the amount of repeats to like, I don't know, 70, and we run tests 2 times a day instead of 1 time. Can we do that or not?
Oh, we could. But I mean, yes, we could. I mean, it's Kubernetes that pays for our infrastructure. I assume they will not like immediately start running after us when we double number of testing that we do. But I don't think we immediately like it would mean that we have we use double amount of resources and have double number of reports. We are barely able to keep up with one failure per day and reproducing it and finding it, and we don't have enough people. So I would say I don't see much benefit of, or I think we are good enough with one run per day. We don't need more like data to comb through.
I agree about that point, but my suggestion was that if we hit the timeout every time, we can divide that so we don't hit that anymore. That was my whole idea. But if you think we
Increase the
can,
timeout, or
I don't know, or we can decrease the number of repeats, or I don't know.
So yes, this is what I noted, that we should repeats number of run to 100, from 150 to 120. I can give them math. We have one, or we have one scenario take. We observe max time per suite was 3 minutes, which is 86 seconds, which would we can, like, in 200 minutes we can do only 140 runs, but take 20% of safety buffer left around 100. I mean, there are many ways to solve it. I'm not saying that other ways are much worse. I'm just looking for a simple solution that would work for us now. Does it make sense?
Yes, that makes absolute sense.
Yeah, like running the same suite 2 times means you have 2 reports to go through, and you have like more runs here, but it doesn't like give you a benefit really. I mean, you run it more times, but you have more data. I would prefer to have less number of runs, but with higher timeout. But also, I don't think we need more runs. Like, really, I just want to have it around the same time. So, is there anyone, as we finish, as we are on time, is there anyone interested in looking into reducing sending a PR here to reduce the time, the number of counts?
I mean, if nobody wants, I can do that.
Okay, that would be, thank you. Would be awesome. Ping me if you have something. Okay,
Of course.
that's
Thank you.
yeah. Thank you for volunteering and being active. That's all the time we have for today. Let's finish for now, but hopefully we can meet again in 2 weeks to talk again about robustness tests. But please remember that there are other etcd meetings, and feel free to attend them, as you can still meet maintainers and ask questions. Okay, thanks everyone, and hope to see you soon.
Thank you. See you soon.